God had punished him by mistake. As a reward, he will receive any wish he asks for. After making his wish, he was sent to another world, where he will be able to do what he wanted most in life, to have a peaceful life as a farmer. Let's start this story. A man with a cane and a long beard presents himself as a god to this spirit. This man knows that this person's life has been horrible, full of hardships, and in the end he died of a terminal illness. God apologizes because he made a mistake. To make up for it, he will fulfill any wish he asks for. This spirit is called Machio. He remembers that in his past life he was surrounded by tall buildings and always had to obey his boss. He always wanted to have a quiet life in the country, harvest vegetables, raise some animals and other things. The only thing life brought him was misery, and he was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and in the end he could not fulfill his dream of being a farmer. Now that he had the chance to have a new life, he asks please give him a chance to be a farmer. As this god felt guilty, he decided to fulfill his wish and also gave him a tool for agriculture. Machio wakes up and realizes that he has come back to life, and best of all, he can move. When he was in the hospital, he couldn't even talk. Now that he has a healthy body, he decides to fulfill his dreams. He wanted to be a farmer, raise animals and many things related to the countryside. He looked much younger and eager to work. Then he remembered that God had given him a powerful tool for farming. As if by some kind of magic, he summoned a hoe in his hands. This tool was so easy to use. In this lonely forest, he decided to look for a place to stay and sleep. While exploring, he found a gigantic tree where it looked like a good place to be. He knows that at some point he would need food and water. Since he didn't see a river, he decided to dig underground. He wanted a shovel, and as if by magic a shovel materialized. The tool he received was something incredible, as it could transform into anything. Machio started digging underground. He realized that when he used the tool, everything was so easy to use. It was as if the earth was made of butter. In a matter of minutes, he found a water source. As he did not know where he was, he decided to stay and live in this place, for which he began to clean the area. He removed the weeds. He realized that there were many trees. He used the super tool and turned it into an axe, and in one stroke he managed to destroy the tree. Then he realized that he not only had the super tool, but he had also received super strength. He could only smile. Machio cut the trees with great ease as if it were simple butter, and with the strength he had, everything was easier. He began to create beams and wooden boards to make the house where he would live. He was so focused on making his new house that he had forgotten that it was already late. The night was about to arrive. With the super tool he tried to transform it into a lantern or lamp, but he could not. It seems that this super tool could only be transformed into very simple things. As the tree was simply butter, he cut a piece of it so he could stay inside. He took advantage of the moonlight to create some wooden plates and cups. Looked at the moonlight and realized that there were 2 moons, concluding that he was really in another world. The next day he expanded the area where he lived. He was in no hurry to look for people. He really wanted to live in this place. He created a magnifying glass to create fire. A wild rabbit suddenly appeared. Machio managed to defend himself as best he could. That rabbit had a strange shape, but he decided to eat it. As it had no salt or seasoning, the food did not taste so good. After the meal, it was time to go to the bathroom, so he created a drainage system. Being outdoors was not so good. He improvised the bathroom and everything went well. As he intended to stay and live here, he began to plow the land to make it fertile. While working, he imagined if he would harvest some good vegetables. At the end of the day he finished, but he realized that he had no seeds at all. That's how the day ended. The next day some small shoots had come out of the ground. He doesn't understand what happened, since he didn't plant any of this. Something strange was going on in this crop field he made. They seemed to be growing fast. Now the next job, he can imagine that rabbits or strange monsters would come to his crop, so he decides to create a barrier. He does not know what could be these plants that are growing, but he does not lose hope that they are edible. While the plants were growing, he decides to create a hut of pure wood to be able to live. Days passed, and he seems to get used to this new life, but God had fulfilled his dream. But now that he was here for many days, he began to feel very lonely. One day some wounded dogs arrived near his area, and as he wanted some company, he fed them. Machio remembers that since he was a child he wanted a dog, but he never had one. One of the dogs seemed to be pregnant. Machio had no choice but to take them to the hut. He tried to help with something, but did not know what to do, decided to let nature do its thing and fell asleep. The next day Machio went to check on the dogs and was pleasantly surprised to find that some beautiful puppies had been born. He did not force the dogs to stay, as they were wild. But it seems that they got used to being with him. And so many days passed, the growth of the vegetables was very fast. The plants that grew were edible, rather it was the vegetables he always ate. He had many plans to make. He needed another hut to store the vegetables, furniture and other tools had to be made. He was not in a hurry because he could do it slowly and peacefully. God was watching how this boy was doing, and he realized that he had sent him to a place full of powerful and dangerous monsters. He just hoped that he would forgive him because he made a mistake again. Machio realized that when he plowed the soil and thought about what he would like it to grow, in a magical way the seed would already be inside. Furthermore, the entire crop he planted grew quickly in less than 14 days. He led a quiet life that he always dreamed of, but the only thing he didn't like was that there was no salt. The food didn't taste as good. Somehow he is happy to be able to have these dogs. Without them he would feel very sad and lonely. The dogs not only accompanied him, but they were also good for exploring and many more things, although he had a different appearance to the other world. After exploring for many days he found a river where there was a lot of water. He made a path to get to the river, but the path was not so safe and he ended up having an accident. He expanded the area to make more crops for corn, wheat and other vegetables or fruits. He doesn't know how long he has been in this forest, but it was getting cold. So he keeps most of the vegetables and wood in case there is a winter. One day a visitor arrived. It was a spider of a very strange shape. It seems that the spider was friendly. It could also create web. Machio let it stay in the gigantic tree. It seems that the spider was intelligent. Machio exchanged food for clothes woven with the spider. Now he could handle the cold. He took advantage of this new guest to create a bed and many other things. Soon after winter came, there was only snow everywhere. Machio was sheltered inside the hut, and the dogs seemed to be used to the cold. Now that he was not busy, he began to feel lonely. He had not been able to talk to anyone in a long time. He felt he needed to talk to a person. In the blink of an eye, many weeks had passed and winter was over. Moreover, the little puppies were all grown up. They left the pack and went into the forest. Days later these dogs had returned. They had gone to look for their respective mates. In addition, the spider had her own offspring. Now the community had grown larger. He began to feel jealous. He wondered if he would be left alone. When he suddenly received the signal from the spider, someone powerful was near the area. Machio quickly went to see what the danger was. What he saw was a beautiful woman, which made his heart race. This woman had been cornered by dogs and spiders. She asked for help in the most tender way possible. Machio helped as much as he could and gave her his coat. That girl smiles and quickly proceeds to bite his neck. She was a vampire. She had regained her powers. The dogs and spiders defended Machio and beat the crap out of that woman. Machio asks why she sucked his blood. She explains that she needs blood to regain her energy. He asks why she fought with the dogs. She replies that she thought she could beat them easily. Machio realizes that she is not bad, she just looks a bit silly, so he allows her to suck some blood. She had regained her energy and had even grown a few inches. Her name is Lucy. They arrived at the garden Machio is growing. She is surprised that he has all kinds of vegetables, As an act of chivalry, he invites her a tomato to eat. She bites into it, and is surprised. She had never tasted this kind of tasty food. That tomato was very juicy. Machio shows her the different plants he grows. She was so happy to be able to know these different edible plants. She had a very happy smile on her face. Machio is happy to see that smile. The night had come. She is recording all the plants she had seen. She used magic to be able to write down the utilities of these plants. Lucy told that she is dedicated to research medicinal plants. She had a conflict with a nobleman who wanted to steal her research, so she had no choice but to flee. While she fled, she came to this forest. She is surprised that there are different edible plants that will take her a long time to investigate them all. Also, she cannot believe that he has a magical tool. This was unbelievable to her. Machio reflects on what he has been through this whole day, and how much fun he had with her. Lucy reflects, and says she will come back another day to investigate further. He had heard those words. He didn't want to be alone. He asks her to stay and live with him. She says she would be happy to have a room for her research. Machio looks her in the eyes and asks her to stay and live with him forever. Obviously, this was an invitation to form a couple. She tries to explain that she is in a lot of trouble with the law, that she is a vampire, but none of that mattered to Machio. He explains that he has been living alone for a long time and doesn't know if he will be able to handle this. This was very sudden for her. She tried to understand this person. So she agreed. He didn't seem like a bad guy, so she accepted the proposal. Although she asked to get to know each other better. The next day Machio was working livelier than ever. Lucy gave him a good morning greeting. That simple greeting made him very happy. From now on, the two of them started to live together. She learned to grow some medicinal plants and many other things. Since Lucy came to this place, she had been a great help. She had magic to illuminate the dark places. When they ate, she noticed that the meals had no salt. Machio explains that he doesn't know where there is. She explains to him that the salt was at the edge of the earth. He had salt in sight all the time, he just hadn't realized it. They spent many days cultivating and harvesting plants. When suddenly the spider alarm sounded, there was another danger. Another beautiful woman had been captured by the animals. This girl had come to find Lucy. They all have a meeting to talk. Leah can't believe that the person she is looking for was hiding in this forest. Leah asks who is this boy here. Lucy answers that he is her husband. She said it very embarrassed. Lucy explains that Leah is a very powerful warrior who is known for fighting, so he asks why she was interested in looking for the vampire. She explains that there is a bounty on Lucy, since she had destroyed a very important laboratory. She justifies herself by saying that the nobleman had forced her to create medicines and drugs, so she fled and ended up coming to this forest. As these two girls already knew each other, Lucy invites her to stay and live here. She gets a tour of the fields and tastes different fruits. Leah is happy to be able to eat these delicious foods. In the end, she helped harvest many vegetables and fruits. During the night, she couldn't help but keep eating. Strawberries were her favorite. Leah said she would stay a few days. During all the following days, Leah was happy to be able to eat the delicacies that Machio produced, but she felt that there was a lack of manpower. One day she said goodbye and said she would be back soon. Days later she returned. She had returned along with a group of girls. They were elves. Long ago they lived in a village in the north. During the war against the humans, they were stripped of their territories and without a place to stay. They traveled the world in search of a place to stay. They asked to stay in this place. They asked for help. Leah explains that they are good workers. As they were nomads, they were strong enough to survive on their own. Lucy observes that they look very young, but the elves explain that most of them are over 300 years old. Machio understands that these women had to suffer a lot in loneliness, and allows them to stay. This place was turning into a village. As there were more people to live with, they decided to make a new house for these new arrivals. They were very obedient and hardworking. While Machio cut the trees with ease, the girls built the house. The effort of working for 10 days had been worth it. since in the end they managed to build a house bigger than the protagonist's own. The design of the house was different from what I had seen in the other world. Since these girls had lived for many years, they had enough intellect to create a totally safe and well-designed house. The home that was being formed here was safe and one could feel the peace. Over the next few days, the new girls helped with the vegetable and fruit harvests. Now Lucy and Leah's workload had lessened. The only odd thing he saw was that the elves ate raw garlic. The leader of the elves explains that she would like to do some mining in order to build iron tools. Later, these girls created a furnace, layers of melting iron sand, and with their skills created pans and other tools. The girls explained that now that they were settled in this area, the only thing left for them to do was to reproduce. Machio acts crazy and leaves. With the arrival of the elf girls, they brought a lot of knowledge. Now he even ate wheat bread. Machio was curious to know who this area belonged to. He can imagine that this forest belongs to some aristocrat. Lucy explains to him that this forest has no owner, since it is very dangerous to enter this area. She takes him by the hand and explains that he should not be afraid. This place belongs to him, because he was the one who built this village. In the following days, he created a beehive, an aqueduct system, and many other things. The work was almost endless. There was always something to do: try new foods, make thermal baths, among other things. After several months, more elves arrived, scattered throughout the world. The head of the girls introduces the new arrivals to Machio. He knows that they are very hardworking and enthusiastic. He tells them that they can stay in the village. These girls are not only happy to have a place to stay, but they will also be able to have children with peace of mind. Machio wonders himself with whom these girls will reproduce, since he was the only man in the village. After a few processes, they managed to create fresh rice. The new life he had was very different from the past. Now he could harvest and cultivate as much as he wanted. Today he had shared a lunch with all the people in the village, a happiness he could never dream of.